Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I am excited for today. Before I introduce you to our guest, here's a quote just for this episode. I didn't get to where I am by going after mediocre opportunities. Charlie Munger. Our guest today is a great friend of the Culture Matters podcast, a good sport as it relates to the random quotes that I picked before these episodes, a steward of their community, their church, their family business. Um, the work that we get to do together, I get to learn from them, their family, their examples. And if you listen to the Culture Matters podcast, you've heard them on the show before. We've been doing a series on the values of the Hubert Vester Auto Group. That our guest today is a leader and a motivator and an example of the values in the culture. Chris Vester's back to talk about promotion of positivity, one of the HVAC values. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you, and I love your introductions. You
Thanks.
make me feel so encouraged, actually, and I love Mungerisms. So that was always a good quote.
Yeah, I didn't get to where I am going by after mediocre opportunities. One of my favorites. What do you see as the opportunity in the promotion of positivity as it relates to the company?
So, and we talked about, was there a definition of that, and promotions and an encouragement or something that's going to further a cause. Like that's what promotion does, is it pushes a cause or an idea along. So the idea of acting in a way that pushes out positivity, that the advantage I see or the opportunity I see there is the car space, the automotive space. There's so much negative reputation around it. Some of it well deserved. Some of it's hung in the late 70s and early 80s. But people feel negative when they're coming into a dealership because they feel like they're going to get taken advantage of, or that they're going to make a bad decision. But if we could influence the customer's feelings about the experience, and by our pushing positivity, encouraging and promoting just being positive, smiles are contagious. Like, I had a conversation with a young fellow yesterday who happened to be sitting beside me in a car, and he yawned, and it made me yawn. He goes, I wonder why that is. Like, he actually asked, why is that? And I said, yeah, there's only really two things that are immediately contagious that you can see. And he goes, well, what's the other one? And I said, a smile. Smiles are contagious. And even just the simple act of kindness of a smile with a customer that you make eye contact with could further the mission of positivity in the group. So if you have a customer that's coming in and their previous experiences or their previous ideas or their indoctrination of what the dealership space looks like from a customer's perspective is negative, then hopefully when they get here, there's an immediate feeling and an immediate notice that this is different. Because it just is, it's a contagious thing. So the idea would be that when the customer comes in, they're infected with a contagion of positivity, so their experience is positive. We haven't talked about purpose statement, but our purpose statement is to enrich every life we touch by giving them an incredible dealership experience. But I don't know that you can have an incredible dealership experience that's not positive.
Enrich every life we touch by giving them an incredible
dealership
experience.
And we discussed that in the group. We touch each other more often. Well, that sounds odd. We experience each other more often than we experience customers, because we're here every day. working. So the first people we should be looking to enrich the life of is those we work with, and what kind of dealership experience are we giving them? So it's a purpose that goes beyond customers. It's actually one another first. But I don't think you can do that with any type of negative atmosphere or overall negative presence or energy. I don't know that anybody's ever enriched anybody's life by being negative. I don't see how those two would go together.
What's some examples of negativity?
It's a great question, because off the top of my head, I think a lot of people would say when people are disagreeable, but I don't know that disagreement has to do anything with negativity. I think an example of negativity here would be a low energy level with the customer. Like that would be negative. Like low energy would be negative. Lack of empathy for the customer would be negative. Getting combative with a customer would be negative. Getting combative with one another would be negative, because you can, and when I say combative, I don't mean not being able to have real and honest and open dialogue and conversation, because you and I have had this conversation about conflict being essential in relationships. Conflict is the avoidance of conflict is this multiplication of resentment over time. We've had a lot of deep conversation about that. So I'm not talking about the inability to have, direct conversations and solve problems, but to get where it's just combative, that would be negative. Unwillingness to listen to the other side of the equation would be negative. You think about even just the world culture today, where nobody wants to hear anybody else's opinion. They refer to it as their truth. I think living that out really would be negative. That just means everybody has their own truth. And so I think that would be negative. But off the top of my head, those would be examples of negativity.
So those are examples of negativity. How do we combat them?
Living the opposite. Showing compassion would be, I think, something that's positive. Listening to the other side of the argument would be positive. Giving up the right to be right would reduce combativeness. We're called to love our neighbors. That would be probably the easiest and best way to do it. A display of grace would be a great way to do it. Because we talked about that. Can humans actually give grace, or we give forgiveness versus grace? But quick to forgive would be a great way to be positive. I think another way to be positive was in the moments that we're focused on someone else's shortcomings, we take a deeper dive into our own. I think that'd be a great way to be positive, because we're so quick to call out other people's shortcomings. We miss where we're falling short. So what would happen if we worked on ourselves all the time? It would be a much more positive experience for most people, I think. But I think constant personal, I don't like the word personal development, because I don't like the personal development space per se, because it's gotten so gross. But someone who's truly is trying to work on how they're showing up in the world, think that would have a positive effect, not only on them, but for those that surrounded them.
How does promoting positivity work or weave itself with some of the other values?
Like I said, if you look at, passion to serve, and I'll go through them again: passion to serve, encouragement, teamwork, promotion of positivity, adapting for growth, and relentlessness or relentless. I don't think you can do one of those without the other. I think they all intertwine. I don't know that you can serve someone and be negative. If you have a passion to serve someone, then the act of serving someone is not going to give you a negative feeling. It's going to bring up positivity in you. Having been in situations where I was able to serve with no expectation of anything in return, like, you couldn't peel me off the ceiling. I was so ecstatic about it. You and I've had lots of stories about that, but it's that feeling of serving someone with, like, just out of the joy of serving them. Like, there's a ton of positivity that comes from that, inwardly to the single individual as well as to everyone around that person, because it's just enlightenment. And I don't think that you can build a great team without really focusing on being positive. And that, again, that's not about not trying to improve. That's where relentless comes in. Relentless to me means better than yesterday. So, but I think in my experience, teams work better together. Teamwork grows when the team members maintain a level of positive interaction. And then the adapt for growth. Everybody hates change. Well, most people hate change. I hate to say everybody or all the time or always, but the majority of people don't like change. They like status quo. And if we're going to have a core value that says, hey, we're going to have to be adapting for growth constantly because the business is constantly changing, and it's adaptation requires some positive energy, because it's just so hard to get people to change. So I don't know that any one of them can happen without the presence of the other. Maybe that's the right answer to that question.
You brought a thought experiment to mind. It seems like a lot of pressure for those in power, because imagine taking it. Imagine those in power not living those, but the people doing it. So imagine, I have a passion to serve. I'm relentless. I'm adapting for growth. And imagine, like, I'm building a pyramid, and I'm pushing that rock. And you better smile. It seems like a lot of pressure. That's where I'm curious about your thoughts on this, like where the leadership falls into that, because imagine, I have control I'm the emperor. You better smile as they push the rock up the
Right.
whatever with the pyramids. I mean, I could be relentless. I could adapt for growth, all these things. And I just hope that my emperor or emperors are too. What are your thought? What comes to mind? Because that's the thought picture that when you were saying, is this the right way? Yeah, like that all makes sense to me. The question is, how much pressure is on leadership to live these values or any values?
If there's, let's talk about the word pressure. If there's pressure to live out the values, and they're not your values. Because I think if they're your values, then that's just the way you perform. That's the way you show up. Like that's, because values are really just who you are. But now I think that sometimes there's some clarity around one person's definition of acting those things out.
That's what bothers me about these value exercises that I see out there is every time people do them, they aren't who they are. They're always who they want to be. So it's a projection of who they want to be. We really want to get down to the values of a company. We got to get people to say what they see people doing.
Right.
And then, that might ruffle some feathers, but like the exercises that I've done them, others have done them. I've watched people doing them. It's always, let's write everything down of who we want to be. Or like, who's the best, like think of the best example of a person at the company and write down all their attributes. Well, then that's not who we are. That's who we'd like to be.
Yeah. So I can give you an example of that, right? You've heard me use what I call my standard statement. So we have a business purpose, but for me personally, I've got a statement that I use for myself as I introduce myself because it's the standards I want to hold myself to. And I call it my life strategic plan because if at the end of my life, they're standing above my box and they say it about me, then I will feel as if I did okay, And that statement is I'm a bold man who acts with integrity and from love, and I stand as a beacon pointing to God's grace and mercy. But I did this recently when I was in a crowd and they had asked me to speak from testimony, and Suzanne and I did it a couple months ago. And I said, but that's not who I always was. So I reverse engineered it and said, I'm a weak man who acts situationally in a self-serving manner. And I'm standing as a beacon pointing to my glory. And I can think of a time in my life that's exactly who I was. Depending on the situation I'm in is who's going to show up. And depending on the situation, I'm going to act situationally and I'm going to figure out a way that it's going to serve me. And I wasn't pointing to anybody else's glory, just my own. So I think one of the best ways, if you're going to reverse, like you just said, reverse engineer the values of a company, like ask the people, how do you see them living it out? But I will say for me personally, on an individual level, being able to say, in this moment, am I being bold? And that doesn't mean like having a spotlight on me, but is it a bold move? I always want to be, and I have a desire to be bold. Am I acting integrous? Is there a different me showing up right now that's going to show up at home or is going to show up in church or is going to show up at a ball game? Is there a different me showing up right now? Is what I'm getting ready to do coming from a place of love from whoever I'm interacting with or the people, just people around me as a whole or the company, because I love the organization? And is it going to violate me and my faith and how I show up as a disciple of Jesus Christ? So it's easy for me in that moment to make the decision because I have a statement to ask myself. Hey, in this moment, bro, ask yourself, are you being bold with integrity from love? And are you pointing to God's grace and mercy? And then I'll say the decision gets easy because I don't want to be weak, situational, self-serving, pointing to me. I don't want to be that guy. Like I've been that guy. That guy sucked. That guy lived a really hard life. Didn't sleep well.
Well, in that guy's defense, I mean, I've been afraid of things. I think fear comes to mind. Like we can be in environments where we're afraid, right? If I don't feel strong and someone, I'm walking down the street with my wife and somebody comes up with a knife and I'm not like a UFC fighter, I think I resonate with your weak situational.
Right.
I'm shutting down. I'm afraid. I have a question about So when I hear adapt for growth, I think the opposite. I think like stagnated.
Mm-hmm.
When I hear relentless, I lazy. When I hear promote positivity, um, maybe reactive comes to mind. These are opposites, right?
Sure.
Like passion to serve, distant. You know, I think non-physical. Like I'm not around. You know, I was supposed to carry that cross, but I didn't show up that day.
Right.
So, am I on the? I would like to know your thoughts of my.
Yeah. I
Those are
like
some
it.
things that come about, like the opposite, or if you adapt for growth, I'm stagnated, relentless, I'm lazy. Yeah, I kind of like can call it. You know, I we talked before this. I didn't really want to do this today. I'm so tired, but I would now that we're doing this. Oh my god, what a joy! I'm glad something pulled me. Oh, oh, maybe my commitment to you. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because you've got a standard that you're holding yourself to.
Well, and I'm accountable to the relationship that I value more than when I get weak and transactional and tired, even just tired, right? Trying to do like so. Yeah, I'm accountable to the relationship. That helps. So anyway, like lazy is opposite of relentless. Entitled, promote positivity. Reactive comes to mind because oh, there's the other thing. Like, yeah, people have asked. I want to be proactive. I'll smile first. You mentioned smiling.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody doesn't smile, I got to smile first.
Yeah.
Put out my hand and shake first, not wait for somebody to come. And then the passion to serve, I think, distant. Like I'm not there, I'm not around, I'm not available. You call me, I don't answer. You know, you text me, it's 3 days, or something like that. Um, I'm trying to think, like you said, in the opposites. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I'm writing those down. Um, because I mean, if you like lazy and entitled for sure are the opposite of relentless in my brain. Stagnant is for sure adapting for growth. Stagnant is that's an easy one. I agree. Distant would be a passion to serve because those that don't want to serve distance themselves from people and situations because they don't want to be called upon to serve. I think teamwork, to me, the lone wolf, like just all about self-serving. Maybe self-serving would be a better one there. Um, so the promotion of positivity, you said reactive. Um, yeah, mainly because of promotion, because promotion is a proactive. You know, you're going to do the action first. Um,
So even positivity, because if you say
yeah,
something I don't that hurts my feelings, I've got to be proactive, and that's what you said forgiveness earlier.
yeah, yeah. I would say pessimistically reactive. Like they're going to wait and react, and their reaction is always going to be in pessimism. Is where I would see that.
Something else that came up was success, meaning like something the more successful I am, the if I'm number one, like I'm winning, I may not have like yeah, yeah. Why would I adapt for growth if I've already grown? Or like there's things are coming to me. I if things are coming to me, if opportunities are going to be coming to me, um, I'm reacting. I'm in. Not I don't even have to be lazy. I can be quick to the draw to get things done, to be responsible. I can be responsible and still entitled if I'm a top, like if I'm successful, because people now are calling me, right? I'm now known as culture. And so they're calling and I could be I'm answering the phone, but it's not like it once was where, nobody cared. I'm nobody. I better get out there and yell and scream and wave and suffer. Uh, I'm not entitled to anything. I don't have anybody call me. That came up. Uh, oh, and the positive. If I'm famous, people are coming to me and smiling. If I'm famous, I'm like the known person. People are treating me so good, but they might not even know me.
or like you.
Yeah, they're just smile or like, yeah, just, oh, hey,
Yeah. But isn't, I mean, we talked about the pyramid a while ago and the guy, you better smile. But I think one of the major responsibilities of anyone leading an organization is the continual growth, because the minute they stop growing or living out those values, then the businesses that have established will begin to stop growing and stop living out those.
it's a great point because that's where I thought of the passion to serve. It's like if I think of the content, you know, it's two things. It's spending time physically, and it's investing time emotionally, mentally, and we got to talk.
Right.
We
And
have
I
to
think
talk,
about,
be
yeah.
together.
And we talk about specifically about the dealer space a lot. And like, there's like dealers that I know of that their employees have never met them. And I mean, there's big, huge groups. I mean, dealerships that have 15, 20 rooftops that, I mean, they're at, 1,000 employees. Like, it would get to be where it's ridiculously difficult. But if that founder or owner or namesake of that business isn't present with the leadership in a way that the leadership understands that they want to, that the leader wants to lead the leadership. In other words, they have a desire to lead the leadership. I mean, it should bleed down if it's the right people, if it's the right culture, it should bleed down. So, because I think at some point it's got to get hard to be, that whole idea of present. Like, what's the definition of presence? How does that shift with the growth of an organization? That's probably one of the harder questions to answer
Well,
because,
that's a great point. In this book, I was reading it on the plane yesterday or 2 days ago. The essays of Warren Buffett, and the last page they talk about the last two pages they talk about the structure of Berkshire. And one of the pieces was should have the page ready, but it was ultimately like Warren is available for any CEO at any time to call them. Like it's their show to run, and there's that accessibility, you know.
yeah, because I mean, and because you think about it, if you go all the way down the line of any company that Berkshire Hathaway has acquired, and you go to the bottom of their accountability chart, probably the most overwhelming feeling that they get is security that Warren Buffett's company acquired them, because it's got to mean that their job is safe. Maybe, I don't know, but
Oh yeah.
but would they understand who Buffett and Munger? Like, would they understand what their values are, or they just understand, okay, they understand business, and because they own us now, I'm safe.
Here the piece. As the Berkshire system bestowed much desired autonomy on many subsidiaries of their CEOs, Berkshire became successful, well known. These outcomes attracted both more and better subsidiaries into Berkshire, and better CEOs as well. And the better subsidiaries and CEOs then required less attention from headquarters, creating what is often called a virtuous cycle. Oh, that's there was other piece here. Um, ultimately his, it's somewhere here, but I haven't internalized.
Yeah, but what I'm hearing is, but because of the way he gave up so much autonomy, more and better opportunities came, which brought more and better opportunities. But it was because of his accessibility and willingness to serve the ones that were leading.
They partnered with cultures that definitely had a passion to serve, which was reflected in the work, right? The work ethic, the activity, the engagement, and he would show up to work every day. I'm funny, I'm saying would, still does, to his office, doing what his role was, which is finding opportunities, a lot of reading, a lot of thinking, answering the call when his partners, because it's like they'll reach out, and here I am, I'm available for you. Setting compensation for the CEOs, to create the right incentives for them to manage these businesses. And this is somebody that considers himself the general contractor, not the architect, but the general contractor of his business, of businesses. And when you said passion to serve, I thought like, that's somebody with a passion to serve. So much so, he still goes to work every day with his little, McDonald's menu Happy Meal
Right.
thing in the morning. Like, so that just came to mind, is that
Well, you and I have had conversations about David Green too. I know where it's interesting to see what will happen to that organization when Mr. Green is passed. But I mean, he still shows up quite often. I mean, he's given a lot of autonomy to his family to do things. But it's still family owned. So it's, it'd be interesting to see at a family owned level. Like Berkshire's a machine at this point, you know. Um, but Hobby Lobby's still not that. And so it'd be interesting how does that play out in a situation where it's a family owned, family value based organization that's become a nationwide phenomenon. Like, what's the next gen of that maintenance of that look like? I think that'd be one of the great cultural experiments of probably mine and the next generations to see what happens to Hobby Lobby. Because I love what they do, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out over the course of the next 3 or 4 generations.
Chris, in closing, what would you say is the call to action for our listeners on this topic of promotion of positivity?
Smile first. You said it. I mean, it's proactively going after the the internalization maybe of positivity. That's maybe we should change it to promotion of joy, because joy is the better word maybe. I don't know. But yeah, smile first.
Thank you. Thanks, brother, for coming back.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening. Please leave us a review on the Culture Matters podcast. We will see you next time.